if we accept the fact that all of these emotions that come to us are for our good, it is something innately in us and something that needs to be leaned into without necessarily losing control, but giving up that control and accepting and welcoming some of these things.
For some of the most pivotal years of my life, tears were tucked back and hidden behind a masquerade of being tough, being a warrior, someone who could hustle, work hard, and get things done. But it wasn't until I started to get more in tune with who I really am that things took off in my business. Welcome to I Might Cry, a podcast exploring how heart, mind, body, and spirit are all deeply woven into the way we do business. With guest interviews from experts in business strategy, therapy, emotional intelligence, the human body, and so much more. I'm your host, Elizabeth Marks of Almond Leaf Studios. I've been capturing luxury weddings around the globe for decades and now have the privilege of educating others on how to build and grow profitable business doing what they love. I'm on a journey of self-discovery, of becoming more of the uniquely beautiful, messy, and complex human that I was created to be, and I want to invite you to do the same. Join me on this adventure of uncovering the walls we've built that keep us stuck in patterns of limitation so that we can journey into living life with arms and hearts wide open. Let's venture into this together. Welcome to today's episode. I have my husband and our lead videographer, principal videographer now, David. If you want to stalk him on Instagram, he's at Almond Leaf Video. And we're going to just have a conversation. It should be short and sweet, just kind of chatting about something that we've been talking a lot about internally, just between us, and some practices that we've been doing to really change the way that we live our lives. So, yeah, take it from there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talk about the most is we're parents. We have 2 children, and I think that a lot of who we are comes out when we begin to raise children. Mm-hmm. And so we see things in ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think we all think, oh, it's going to be like, I'm going to be a great parent. Or I guess there are people who think that they're going to be awful parents too. But I think that especially when it comes to the discipline and all of that, the expectations, and the more that we discuss it and the more that we have tried to get down to, I guess, a common ground on how we want to raise our children, it comes from, I think that especially within me and the way I was brought up, I have this need to control my children, control the way that they respond to situations. So it shouldn't be wild and crazy. Everything needs to be like tamed and somewhat reserved. Respect looks like playing on your own quietly. I don't know why. But the more that we've discussed this kind of control piece, that it's not our job as parents to control our children, that they are welcome to figure and navigate all of that out on their own as little humans.
And have really big emotions.
Yeah, they are not different than us. They are not like a different species. They are human, and so are we. And we all need the permission to feel all the feelings and navigate how to respond to those. And so what our children need is an ally and someone to help navigate, not control. Mm-hmm. And I think that what that did for us, not just as parents, is it made us reevaluate even the way that we deal with our own feelings and emotions. Yeah. And everybody knows Elizabeth is a I might cry kind of individual. And that's always been something that's really beautiful and good. But at the same time, I'm a very different style. I am a sit with, think through, wonder. Emotions pop out very randomly, and they're not just there.
And it's taken a lot of work too, I think, for us in communication, for you to be able to like hold space for me with my big emotions without allowing that to mean much.
Trying to fix it.
Or trying to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
How am I sounding? Am I sounding like Eeyore? We've decided that I'm not very good at podcasts because I have a very
You get
monotone,
into this
boring
like,
voice.
yeah. Well, I want to pause though and time out though on that, because I do think anybody listening that's like, well, that's great, but I'm not a parent. So like, how does this relate to me? I think where we're going with this is that, I mean, and we'll get into more of like a specific story too, but all of this has been something that is carried into not just how we live our lives, but into how I do business too. When there's a difficult business situation or there's a big emotion that comes up because of a situation that happened, or on a wedding day when we're photographing things and like the pressure in the room is high, like there's all kinds of situations and scenarios in life, in business, in parenthood, in anything where you find yourself wanting to control. And there's been this like, it's probably a TikTok, I don't know, it's Instagram reels that I've seen
Are
the
we the only
audio.
people that do this? Like, we've gotten stuck in TikTok. Like, we don't even turn on the TV at the end of the night. Now it's just like both of us showing each other our phones, like laughing at weird things.
I'm sure we're not alone in that. So there's this audio that goes around that basically says like, peace is not having everything that you want. It's not, I'm sure I'm butchering their exact words. I'm not eloquent with that stuff, but that peace is not like the absence of
Conflict.
longing
Oh.
or conflict, or you don't get peace when you get everything that you want in life.
Right.
That's not how it works. Peace is actually coming from the acceptance of where you are, who you are today, where you are, what's happening in your life, and learning to be comfortable and be present with that. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. The abundance, the gratitude, the frustration, the anger, like just making peace and accepting that that is true for you today.
Right.
And I think that all ties in together to the control and to the parenthood.
Because so outside of parenthood, though, there's this need of control of one's emotions, which is not a bad thing. Of course, we live in a culture, we live in a society, we live in a community, and we need to respond carefully and in a way that's helpful to our our people around us. It would be crazy if I just flew off the cuff every time we had any sort of disagreement or argument. So control, and the opposite of control is not out of control.
Yeah.
The opposite of control is not chaos, but relinquishing control leads to peace. So like this idea that we can not have control, but also not be out of control and not be in complete chaos mode. I think that that's where language and understanding get a little bit confused, because if we accept the fact that all of these emotions that come to us are for our good, it is something innately in us and something that needs to be leaned into without necessarily losing control, but giving up that control and accepting and welcoming some of these things. I think that's one of the things that we started talking about last night, because we were watching This Is Us, because we are those people.
I wish
we're
we
like
could
such drama people.
The latest episode's name, because it's so good. Like we paused
What the name
it.
of the episode
Yes,
is?
we
It's
paused
called,
it so many times.
I do think I remember. It's like Dancing Child. It's all about the fact that Beth learned to dance before she learned to walk. The little island girl dancer, because she's from, I'm about to cry. We might cry. She's from Jamaica. Beth and Randall are two of the main characters of this show. If you don't watch it, you really don't need to. It's a little heavy-handed, but we love it. We've been addicted since day one. But this was an episode where she realized at some point dancing that was innate in her, something that her father always spoke into and was so passionate about, the fact that she was the little girl who danced before she walked, kind of defined her. And she got into ballet and was really, really good. And then somewhere along the way, kind of lost that. And I think the last few seasons have kind of shown her struggle with not being a dancer anymore and trying to figure out who and what she does as an adult that still honors that that's who she was as a child. And so this last episode, it's not a spoiler, but like gets really into that. And she has to kind of correct some things from her past.
I wouldn't even call it correcting though. I would say facing, making peace, and kind of circling back to what you were saying earlier, that like you're allowing and trusting that like even the good, the hard, the bad, the frustrating that comes to us, all of that is coming to us. The way that we make peace with it is to accept it and to invite it and to allow it, instead of fighting against it. And then to recognize like, what is here for me? Like, why is this coming up? Where is this anger coming
Mm,
from? And where else in my life have I felt anger? Where else in my life have I felt frustrated by a similar experience?
mhm.
Like, how can I, first of all, accept the emotion? Because the only way through the emotion is through it.
Right.
If you try to suppress it or fight it, it's going to keep bottling up, bottling up, bottling up. Like, there's no other possible way to move through the emotion rather than through it.
Right.
So if you need to scream into a pillow, you need to go dance, you need to cry, like whatever it is that you need to do, you've got to move through that emotion. But then also like digging a layer deeper and going, okay, and now why? Like,
Mhm.
why is this coming up? What kind of healing is available to me? Why is all of this happening to shed light on something that maybe does need some healing and some love in
Right.
my life?
Right.
And that's what Beth was doing.
Yeah. And what I think what we were getting at earlier with like the difference of control is not being out of control. There's also a difference between giving up control and losing control. When we give something freely, then we rephrase the perspective of the whole thing. We engage it completely different because the second that we start not welcoming some thoughts or feelings or whatever, shame, the second that we start pushing those away, we end up at some point losing control because we can only do that for so long until we snap. And so we see that happening all the time. I mean, we're hopefully getting close to the end of a pandemic that will slowly change into something else. And I think everybody's on edge. I think there's this level of we've been left alone with our thoughts and our feelings for a long time. And people are going to start losing control if they haven't had the space to just give up
Mm.
control and welcome some of the hard things. A Catholic father, Thomas Keating, coined this welcoming prayer that I think is really, really interesting and goes along with what we're talking about. It says, welcome, welcome, welcome. I welcome everything that comes to me today because I know it's for my healing. I welcome all thoughts and feelings and emotions and persons and situations and conditions. I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. I let go of my desire for survival and security. I let go of my desire to change any situation, condition, person, or myself. I open to the love and presence of God and God's actions within. Amen.
Mm. I love that. It's so beautiful. I mean, you actually paused the show. I mean, we paused the show so many times because we were like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. Because so much of what I feel like I've been learning and trying to put into practice in my life and the way that I'm moving throughout the world, I feel like it was like, wow, like what she just did there, that was this thing and this was this thing. And then you paused it and were like, I need to read you this prayer. Like, have you heard of this prayer? And so I think it's all about a welcoming everything. Like as you move into the day, like being open to receiving the good, receiving anything hard, receiving any healing, receiving anything that wants to come to you. Like,
Saying that all those things provide healing.
yeah.
This is all for my good.
Hmm. Yeah, and I want to go back to the beginning what you started with parenthood, which I was surprised by. I didn't know that we were going there. But
Not the TV show.
yeah, not the TV show, actual parenting our children and the struggles that we have with that process. And I don't know, I was just thinking about, like, how crazy it is because you're talking about wanting to control our kids.
I
Like,
mean,
so we
this
have
morning I didn't want her to wear socks with sandals.
yeah.
Like, it's that. I mean, that's stupid. She can wear socks with sandals. She can be a weirdo if she wants. Like,
And so, yeah, I think circling back to, like, wanting to control our kids, for me, I'm thinking, like, something more dramatic, like, Dax is 2.5 and right now, and he's, like, into the big feels. If he doesn't get what he wants, he's gonna let you know because he's exploring that. He wants to experience and
and we say
explore.
he's testing boundaries, but really he's figuring out.
Right, right. And so our tendency, and probably part of this is maybe the world that we live in, maybe the way we were raised, like it probably is a ton of influence in a lot of different directions. But our tendency is to want to suppress that and control that and say, like, hey, okay, stop crying. It's not a big deal. And use logic to explain this is why it's not a big deal. When in reality, what we're learning more and more, the deeper we dive into this and wanting to be a better parent and wanting to handle it with more grace and ease, is that our job is to just sit with them in that place. It's to let them know that they are safe and they are loved, and we will be there for them whenever they're ready for some support. But we're not going to just abandon them. We're not going to shove them somewhere. We're not going to discipline them for having a big feeling. We want to actually learn to just be present with them in their big feeling, and that there's so much beauty and grace and compassion in that moment when I do have the ability to just like knock it off with my instinct to just jump right into like, stop it. Like, this is ridiculous.
Well, what's hard is because feelings at this age, especially, and always probably, seem to bleed into action. So, like, sometimes their big feeling comes with a throwing or a hitting or a kicking or something that's causing affliction on an innocent piece or maybe an aggressor. And how do you handle that?
That there are natural consequences to everything that we
There's
do.
natural consequences. So it's not punishing, or maybe that's not even the word. It is not punishing. We're trying not to punish that feeling and that emotion, but the response to some of those things need to be figured out.
But my point with all of it, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into like parenting here. My point with all of that is that like when I can have that awareness and I can maybe interrupt the pattern of the impulse for me, of the impulse being like, it's time to discipline or time to control, right? That's really what it's coming down to, even if it shows up in different ways. That when I can step in there and just really be present and say, I hear you. I see that you're sad. Oh, it looks like you're really mad about that thing. Like, yeah, I understand. I'm here for you. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You can get as mad as you want. You can do as crazy of things as you want, and there will be consequences to some of the actions that you choose, but I'm here with you. Like, I'm holding space for you. I'm here to love you. I'm welcoming arms that will be open to you. And my point with all of this is circling back to all of what we're talking about with ourselves, like welcoming everything. How different would this world look if we could give ourselves that same kind of grace and just to observe, like, wow, I have so much anger. And we stop judging the anger. We stop getting hard on ourselves and being like, I shouldn't be feeling this, or it's ridiculous that I get so mad, or now I just have all this shame inflicted too. Like, we're just layering it up because we have these big emotions, and then we start judging the big emotions. And then it feels even more shameful and we feel even worse about our lives. Whereas if we could just be the parent to ourselves in that moment and just be like, okay, I see you. Like, that is really hard. And that was a big emotion, and it's okay. I think for me, that's like, it has so much potential to just imagine like a world where we could all have that kind of compassion with ourselves. And one of the things that I've been really trying to do is like observe the thought, like recognize I'm having it, observe the thought, but then don't let the thought become meaning. Or the emotion too. Like, it doesn't have to mean anything about me. You know, we've had a couple little triggering moments over the last week here in our lives. And when those moments have come up, I feel like I've noticed this like tendency where in the past I've had this pattern of like spiraling into a shame cycle, spiraling into resentment or all kinds of things. And I was able to like stop it and go, wow, I'm noticing that I'm thinking this, or I'm noticing that I'm feeling this. And instead of like giving into that and allowing that spiral to really unfold, just acknowledging it and then recognizing like, but that doesn't have to mean that X, Y, and Z are true. It doesn't have to mean that I'm a failure at this. It doesn't have to mean that I suck at this. It doesn't have to mean that I screwed anything up. Or even if I did screw something up, it doesn't have to mean that I am a screw up, right? So stopping that pattern, observing the thought, and then not allowing that to unfold into meaning or beliefs about you. Anyway, we've had lots of thoughts about all of this, lots of conversations. A huge part of it stemming from This Is Us. So if you're curious about that episode, please dive in and watch that and DM us about it, because obviously we love talking about the stuff we geek out on, these deep conversations. Is there anything for you that you're wanting to say to add to the conversation to be complete?
I don't think so.
It feels good. Okay. Good. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen. We hope that you found this helpful. Again, not just those of you who are parents, but in business, in life, and just the way that we move throughout life. Our hope and our goal is to just be instigating conversations that are thought-provoking and heart-centered and
peace-giving.
I was going to say peace-loving. So yeah, well, on the same wavelength. Not every day, but today. That's great. Super fun. Okay. If you would do us a favor and leave us a review, it would mean the world to us. He's going to go leave us a review.
I will do that. I'll get on that.
If you will do us a favor and leave us a review if you found this helpful.
I found David so like his voice is not monotone at all. Like, it's so lively and like makes me
He's so endearing.
So engaged. Yeah, I just felt like he was in a room talking to me.
Yeah. if you come to our house and hang out with us over a glass of whiskey, this is exactly the kind of conversation that you will be having. So if it calls to you, speaks to you, please reach out. We'd love to know who you are. And David is over here saying, whiskey, whiskey.
Why do I say what?
Oh, man. Yeah. And then also just share it with a friend. Share it with somebody that you know that you think might find it helpful or interesting. That's how we help make sure that the world gets to be in the know about some of the content that we're putting out there. It's very, very helpful for us too, because we want to help support creatives in every possible way that we can to be as successful as they can with what they're doing. So that's all for now.
Keep being human.
Keep being human. Keep loving yourself. Keep, welcoming everything.
Welcoming the things.
Being open and welcoming. All right. Bye.
Love you.
If you enjoyed this podcast today, do us a favor and hit subscribe and then leave us a review. If you're looking for more, you can find us at almondleafstudios.com or on Instagram at almondleaf. Remember, you are enough. You are love, you are light, and you are worthy simply because you exist.